Thank you so much for meeting me here today.
Yeah, it's great. I want to hear your feedback. I'm excited.
Yes, so I'm one. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet me after school. I know we all have busy lives, so it's sometimes hard to meet after school, but I appreciate you making that time. So before we get started, I just wanted to say that I was really impressed, one, with your slides and how you customize them for the needs of your classroom. And then also, last time I was here, we talked about being very intentional with our seating and kind of moving some of those students around who needed either extra focus or could help lead other groups. And I'm really happy to say that in today's observation, like I saw that and I really was impressed with how quickly you turned that around.
Thank you.
Do you feel like there was that made a difference from how you previously had your classroom set up?
It definitely made a difference. I feel like as the year started and getting to know the students and getting to see who needed a little bit more support than others, I was able to make better fits with the group. So it definitely showed.
Yeah, and I know these chairs are rolly, so it's kind of hard to keep them in one place, but I think the way you have them now really is to your benefit, and I definitely noticed a clear difference from the last time I was here.
I agree.
Going into today's lesson, today we were looking at lesson 13. And before we get started, I would love to ask, how do you feel like your lesson went? What were some of the highlights and maybe some of the things that you would wish you could have improved?
I definitely think the kids are getting used to the routine. They know what to expect. So I think that's definitely a highlight. They know when to use their whiteboards, when to get out their workbooks. Like you said, the slides really help them be more structured, when to get what supplies they need. I still need a little bit more practice with my timing and my pacing. I feel like that's an area where I need to grow still.
Yeah, I think that you're like those are really good observations as far as like your own evaluation. I thought your pacing was actually pretty good in today's lesson. Like I said, those slides, having those timers embedded really help facilitate like the flow of the learning. So I think that overall for this lesson, from what I observed, it was pretty good. Today, I would love to talk about, look at some of the student work and see some of the ways that we can help enhance the lesson and enhance student engagement specifically. So let's go ahead and take a look at the lesson. You notated here that the learning objective was TEAC 4. Let me pull it up.
4.5.
Yes, 4.5a. Can you go ahead and read me that TEAC, please?
Yeah. Representing multi-step problems involving the 4 operations with whole numbers.
Perfect, yep. And I saw that you had your TEACs breakdown and it looked really good. So let's take a look at the student work and see if the students were able to accomplish that goal. So let's go ahead and look here. I asked you beforehand to kind of choose 3 high, 3 medium, and 3 low. And I want you to look at them and see what students were able to accomplish, and the students who were not able to accomplish this task, what were the misconceptions or what were the things that was happening. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes to look at that. I'll set a timer here on my computer. So go ahead and take a look, and then you can take some notes down if you can start noticing any patterns. Did you notice any common trends?
Yes, so I noticed with the high students, they definitely had all the steps we talked about during the lesson concept development. They have their strip diagrams and it's very clear what operation they chose. As I go down to the middle students and their work, some of them did have some of the parts, some are not very organized. It's difficult for me to understand what it was that they went through, what operation they used. And as you can see, it's not as organized as the high students. And then when I get to the lower students, they have some of the steps they thought they should be doing, but it's not necessarily what the problem was asking for. So I see a strip diagram, but they already had a strip diagram on this side. This one had the operations, but it didn't have any visuals for them to represent their work. Same thing here.
Okay, so yes, and so I'll go ahead and ask you a question. So how do you feel like your students were able to meet the objective? Do you feel like the majority of your students were able to meet the objective, or do you feel like it was split, or what is your thoughts on that?
I think it would be about a 60%. I feel like 2/3 of the class was able to be able to visualize and represent in a model and then choose the correct operations. There was just a few students who were not able to do both of those things.
Okay, perfect. So something that I observed in class was that throughout the lesson, there were times when students were disengaged. Not necessarily that they were being a distraction to other students. There was one who was, but overall, the students who were disengaging were just kind of zoning out in and out of the lesson. And I think that may have caused why some of these students were not able to complete the objective to the full extent. Do you feel like you can agree with those observations? Specifically, I noticed with our two friends that sit in that back table, like as you were teaching, are those your high students?
They're
okay, so even your high students were like, I guess they knew it or they were bored or something, and they immediately zoned out and started playing with the paper over here and kind of just messing around. So my area of focus for today is going to be how can we address student engagement to make sure that all students are actively engaged, and therefore it's going to help improve their results at the end. So something that I want us to take a look at is I want us to take a look at your laps. Do you do any laps whenever you are generally doing laps whenever you are teaching?
I usually have a lap for me to check if the students are on the right page, on the right problem number, or if they're showing me following directions. If I say to draw a strip diagram, then I make sure everybody knows what page we are and at least is starting to draw themselves.
So how do you, because when I observed, I saw that you did do like a general lap.
Yeah.
So how are you giving feedback to all students, or are you giving feedback to all students?
I guess I just focus on if they're on task. If they're not on task, then I'll do a gently reminder to stay on task, but that's what I looked for during those labs.
Okay, yes, because like you mentioned here, as we were looking, like some students only did half of what was required. And so what we're going to be working on today is how we can better facilitate laps and progress monitoring to help make sure that all students are engaged and then all students are doing what they're supposed to. So I would like us to right now kind of have a set kind of path that you're going to take every time that we give students a lesson or a topic or a task, so that we can make sure that they're engaged. So go ahead, we brought some paper and a clipboard here. I would like you to draw out your classroom setup.
Okay.
And while you're doing that, I'm also going to be pulling up some notes that I have here as well. And go ahead also, once you are drawing that out, mark your students by if they're high or low or medium. So we can also kind of have a general idea of what that looks like. Okay, perfect.
Here, this one's on me. Okay.
Okay, so this is your classroom. Is this the front or is
This will be the front,
okay,
yeah.
so let's go ahead and make sure so we don't get confused. Let's go ahead and talk about laps. So what do you think the first thing you should do when you are walking around the room? What is the first thing you should be looking for?
I would check just to make sure that everybody's on task at the same page. We're supposed to be working on the same problem.
Okay, so how would you acknowledge students who are on task and also remind or redirect students who are not?
I like to say shout out. I say the word shout out. So shout out to Mr. Alvarado, he's on page 5. Shout out to Mary, who's on page 5. And if there's someone who's not on page 5, say, okay, remember we're on page 5. Or table leaders, make sure everybody at your table is on page 5.
Perfect. So go ahead and let's write some steps. So our first lap is going to be monitoring for engagement. Are students attempting to solve or to work the problem? So that's going to be our first step. And something else I would like you to just keep in mind is that when we're providing feedback, we should be provide equity by giving all students feedback. That means even if students are doing a task and they're attempting, something as simple as, oh, great job, I love that you started with the strip diagram. Oh, great job, it looks like you're using standard algorithm, keep it up. And then students who are unengaged, we can use things like, hey friend, so what's our first step whenever we see this problem? And so you're not sticking next to them the entire time, but you're just giving them something to help kind of turn the wheels in their head.
Okay.
So our second lap is going to be we are going to be giving affirmation for students who are completing the problem well, but we're also going to be giving feedback for students who might be struggling. So first one is just making sure all students are on task. Second one, we're giving feedback, in the moment feedback. I love that you're doing the strip diagram. Hey, don't forget, you need to label. Oh, I love that you're doing algorithm. Make sure you're aligning your place values correctly. Just giving a quick feedback, because at no time should you ever be stuck on one student, because then you're disrupting the flow. And then your third one is going to be checking for mastery or understanding. And that's when you'll walk around with your clipboard, your tracker, and you'll be like, oh, so-and-so met the standard. So-and-so was able to complete this. This person's very close. They just need a little extra push. I'm going to pull them to my small group table today. And the goal for our labs is to give every student feedback. Quick, short, in-the-moment feedback that's going to be relevant and accurate to what they need. So let's go ahead and take a look at our classroom. And we're going to walk over here. I'm going to turn this camera just a second. And looking at your chart, I want you to think about what would be the best path for you to make around the room in order to give all students feedback, and at the same time, you're giving proximity and keeping students accountable as you're monitoring.
Well, I have a high concentration of high students back here. So I guess I could start over to their table, make sure if they understand my instructions, then I expect for the whole class to understand instructions. Then I'll move around my group right here with middle, one low child, this corner with middle, high students, and end in the front with my higher needs.
Okay, so let's go ahead and practice that lab in real time and see. And I just want you right now, obviously we don't have any students here, but let's just go ahead and give some quick feedback.
Okay.
Let's go back to the lesson that we did and give some sort of feedback on that first lab, just so we can practice that.
Okay, so, okay. Love the way you guys are on problem 1. Thank you for being on problem 1. Okay, let's remind our partner. Hey, are we both on problem 1? Thank you, all right. Problem 1, all right, good job. Oh, shout out to my girls over here. We're on problem 1. Yes, yes, good job. All right, let's look over here. Okay, oh, what problem are we on? There we go. Okay, now we're all on problem 1.
Perfect. And you know what? I will say that I also like that you did it whole group. Typically when we're giving the next lap, we'll give specific feedback to each student.
Okay.
But I love that just for the engagement piece, you were going around and you were talking. I also really appreciated that you did a full circle, kind of started you off, right? And you came around and ended right back at your spot to help teach the classroom. And let me ask you a question. Why do you think it would be important for you to kind of monitor all students and then come back to the front? What would you do when you came back to the front? Let's say we noticed, because you said for this table and that table, you said, what page are you on? Because they were clearly not on the right page.
Okay.
So what does that signal or indicate to you?
So if I come around to the front, then I can just take a quick second check and make sure that they did go to the back to correct. to the
Or
correct page.
you can also remind. So if you
Okay.
notice like a majority of students just are not on the page number, they might not know the page.
Okay.
So when you're just back to the beginning, you can be like, okay guys, remember our page is page 68. Make sure you're on page 68. Nice job guys, I love the effort. So you're just kind of capturing the whole classroom.
Okay.
Again, you won't have to do this if everyone's on task or on the right page, but if you notice, like you just did in your example, that some students are not on the right page, that's a quick, oh, I noticed 8 people right now are not on the right page. Guys, remember, page 68, if you're not on there, go there now. I'm gonna give you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Continue working, nice job. Okay, perfect. And then our second lap, we'll do it again, and this time we're gonna be providing specific feedback.
Okay.
And now, we obviously don't have any work here in front of us, but I want you to go ahead and just be like, hey, I love that you're using this strategy. We're just gonna use general terms right now. I love that you're using this strategy. Oh, don't forget to put your strip diagram, and we're just gonna practice just going to each table.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. Yes, I see you're using your strip diagram. Good job. Yes. Oh, I love that you remember the strategy from today's lesson. Good job. Good job. All right. Oh, I see 2 different types of strategies here. Good job, guys. Okay. All right. Okay. Remember, what was the strategy we talked about today? Yeah. Can you talk to your partner, see if she can help you out? Yes. Good job. Okay. Yes, I see strategies. Strategies. Awesome. Way to go. Okay. Good job. Good job. All right. Thank you so much.
Good. How did that feel?
Okay. I feel like I addressed every single person, and even the people who were not showing me strategies, I almost gave them not the answer, but kind of a solution as a way for them to collaborate and start that conversation with their table.
Perfect. You're giving them a chance to have student discourse and also to have productive struggle. Now, the same way that I asked you about that first lap, what do you feel the benefit of doing that second lap that's checking, affirming, and redirecting students? What benefit would that have to you as a teacher?
For one, I think the kids are going to be more engaged because they know that I'm going to come back and check. So it keeps them accountable. It might help them stay on task, because I think that's one of the things that I see is like I walk by, they get done, and they just sit back. So it might help them just stay on task, keep engaged.
Okay, and kind of going back to that similar situation we had in that first lap, let's say that we notice that over 50% of our students are just stuck. They don't know what the next step is. When you do that lap, you can come around and do what?
Help them out if they have any questions.
How are you helping them out?
If I see the majority of the class, then I can call back the whole group and explain the instructions again or clarify any misconceptions.
Perfect. So you're giving them like a mini reteach reminder kind of scenario. So for example, with that work that we were doing, we saw that some students were leaving out the strip diagram. We're doing our labs, we're noticing. Class, remember, you have to add a strip diagram. Can someone remind me what a strip diagram looks like? Oh, it's a square, it's a long strip. Okay, perfect. So if anything, you should at least have that strip drawn and start punching in some of those numbers. So you're giving them in-moment feedback. Again, if students are mastering, you won't need to. You might even say, hey, I walked around, I love how everyone's doing great job, guys. So your individual feedback, whole group feedback. Individual feedback, whole group feedback. We're really monitoring for that engagement. And now we're gonna do a third lap. And I want you to have like your tracker out, and now you're looking, you're like, hey, good job, check, keep it up, you're doing great. You're giving them some positive reinforcement, but you're also just keeping track what students are mastering, what students are not. Let's try that out.
For this one, is it individual feedback, or can I do table for like my high students if they happen to finish all at the same time? Or do you want me to address it?
Give individual feedback.
Okay.
So that way that students know that this feedback is personal and they're internalizing that feedback.
Yeah.
They know what their next step is going to be like, hey, I almost did it. Even if it's something like, hey, you struggled on this yesterday. I see that you're doing much better today. Keep it up. Just something small, quick, and so that students feel that they're getting rewarded and acknowledged for the work that they're doing.
Okay. Oh, love that strip diagram. Yes, that looks great. Awesome. Okay. Oh, yes, you got it. Thank you for completing that. Those strip diagrams look great. Thank you. Okay. Yes. Okay. Remember, when we draw a strip diagram, what do we have to put at the top? Yes, the total. There you go. Go ahead and fill that out for me. That looks great. Thank you. All right. See, you figured it out. Thank you for working together. That looks great. Yep, you got it. Thank you for showing me your work. All right, yes, thank you. That looks great.
And then we're back at the front. By this time, our problem set should be close to finished. And now you're ready to do what?
The debrief.
The student debrief. So now you have real-time data that you can use to guide your debrief. So you just made sure all students were engaged for a full 10 minutes. And now you're coming back to the front. I know exactly what my students' misconceptions are. I know what my students are doing well. Now I know how to guide them on a student debriefs to better push them forward for the exit ticket.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and go back to the table and let's talk about some, let's us debrief on that practice, okay?
Yes.
Let's see if I got that. Yes, perfect. So let's talk about that practice that we just did. How did that feel to you? I know it's a little bit out of your comfort zone talking to the invisible children.
I think this is a way of having a purpose, like you said, and then it also helps me keep track of who I've talked to, who I haven't talked to, which sometimes in the moment, if I didn't have a tracker, I might forget. I think the individual affirmations will probably help the students just feel validated for their hard work, and if they're struggling, for them to know that I see their struggle and then also feel like they're getting support.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And the two main things that we're driving today is pushing for student engagement, because we know that when students are engaged, they're going to perform better. And so I really appreciate you taking the time and stepping out of your comfort zone to practice that. Something that I would love to do is come see this implemented in real time. Do you have a lesson or a date that you think that this would be a good time for me to come back and observe you implement what we just practiced?
Well, actually, tomorrow's lesson is very close to this lesson you saw, so
Yeah.
you wanted to stop by tomorrow?
Yeah, I was noticing that. So lesson 14 is kind of a continuation. So I think that would be great. So I would love to come back tomorrow. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a calendar invite so that way my calendar is cleared and that you know that I'm going to be coming. And after we finish, when you do that in real time and we come back, I would love for you to reflect and see the difference between today's lesson and tomorrow's lesson, so we can kind of see if that worked for you or what we need to tweak. Okay?
Sounds good.
Awesome. Thank you so much again for having this feedback meeting with me. I really appreciate how receptive you were, and I'm so excited to come see you tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited.
Thank you so much, Ms. Price. Thank you.